A topsy-turvy time in politics, and to help sort it all out, I'm joined by political strategist J.C. Polanco and O'Brien Murray. First off, President Biden decided to step aside and gave a speech saying that it was time for a new generation. But he never really said why he was dropping out.
He dropped a letter on Sunday afternoon at 1:30, and then he waits days without being seen to show up and give a speech, and still doesn't say why he dropped out. He talked about passing the torch. In some extent, we could all have written that speech weeks ago, but now, after the shooting, he had to wait a bit more, and he wouldn't leave. And that's all he said last night. What was it, 12 minutes, 13 minutes?
I think it was very gracious of him to come out. Remember, he didn't have to leave. He didn't have to. So by stepping down, passing the torch, and saying that he loves his country more than the office, I think it cements his legacy, and it gives him the opportunity to also announce what he's going to be working on for the next several months. Supreme Court reform, which is important. He wants to focus on cancer research, which is important. And again, he wants to help his vice president get elected.
He wants to settle. He wants to, settle.
It was very, as Mayor Koch told me once, it doesn't matter what you do during the campaign, get elected. Everything about this right now is about the vice president getting elected. All his plans of what he wants to try to do are going to be put by the wayside, because anything that he tries to do becomes a wedge. As far as his speech yesterday, the party has an opportunity to get the greatest bump from a thank you to him at the convention, with him being there and taking a bow, without him having to give a speech per se. But yet the party can wrap themselves around him, and the media will love it, and it'll be a great story, and it'll be a great wind at our sails.
But are you really saying that he shouldn't push the Supreme Court changes because it could hurt the candidacy of Kamala Harris?
The example I use is the Secret Service. Why didn't somebody call for her to resign before she testified? The president didn't do it, and the vice president didn't do it. That will happen between now and the election so many times. And any issue he brings up, any policy he brings up, she will have to be with it or against it. And if she's with it, will it be something too far left? Well, he's going to try to cement his legacy on the left. She's got to win in the middle.
Well, listen, as far as what you mentioned with the Secret Service, there were investigations going on. The Republican National Convention was going on. There was a lot going on. By the way, genius move on behalf of President Biden sending that letter on Sunday. Normally, what happens after a convention, that's all we talk about. Last week's convention. No one's talking about that convention. Everyone's talking about the letter from Sunday and last night's speech.
Didn't we talk about that here, where we said he'll do it during the convention? He could do that.
I think
they have a chance to take the wind at the sails. Donald Trump picked J.D. Vance, and a great pick on your part, but picked him because he thought he had this thing sewn up. He went for his legacy, not for the win.
But here's the question. So now we have a situation where Biden is the president, but now you're saying he's got to watch what he says. But what about Israel? They seems to be that they don't agree on everything in terms of Israel. She seems to be a lot more concerned about the Palestinians and what's going to happen afterwards. He just wants to bring the hostages home and maintain his quasi-friendship with Bibi Netanyahu.
In 2020, when I was working a Democratic race for Congress, actually the one against AOC up here in the Bronx, in Queens, it was amazing how much the Biden team was afraid about annoying the left. They did not want to do anything to goat them in. He stayed as far left as he could. That's what's going to happen now. And if they stay left with the vice president, it's not going to work out well.
Well, remember
what are you suggesting? I mean, in terms of Israel, are you suggesting that she has to be in the middle and he has to be in the middle? Or are you also suggesting that there can't be any settlement of what goes on in Israel till after the election?
I've been so lucky with the men and women that I've worked for, and they're the candidates, but during a campaign, the manager calls the shots because they know everything the candidate can't manage. And that's one of the things this vice president had a problem with in the last primary. So if you have a situation where the Obamas and the Clintons all get together and they get the right leadership team in there and they make this happen, you're not going to know what's going to happen from day to day until they have a plan in place from now to the special. It's a special election. You've got under 100 days to do this.
But remember one thing. There's a very important community in Michigan, Dearborn, that the Democrats are going to need in large numbers in order for them to have any shot of picking that state up. This is about the swing states. So I think that considering the community that was separating from President Biden through protest voting during the primaries, it's important that Vice President Harris brings a coalition together, brings them back, and support her candidacy. And quite frankly, she's in the middle on this. Wait, Obi. She wrote, I think, a very good response to what we saw outside of Bibi Netanyahu's speech in Congress yesterday, where the American flag was burned. She came out strongly in support of the American flag. It's a symbol of freedom. Look, this is not a radical left politician. She was a prosecutor, attorney general. She has a strong record on prosecuting crimes. I think it's going to be really hard for Republicans to paint her as a left.
In Pennsylvania, she's against hydrofracking. Whether she picks Shapiro or not, which she shouldn't pick Shapiro, because at this point right now, the state troopers are going to be part of the investigation. You can't have the governor running for office and have any questions whatsoever about that, because it'll be another campaign issue. She's going to really almost have to go with the Arizona senator at this point, with Mark Kelly.
I think that'll be
an astronaut, combat veteran, a guy from West Orange, New Jersey.
That'll be an amazing pick. I mean, think about it: Harris and Mark Kelly. Wow, that'd be.
And he's got a twin brother. They can campaign together, separate.
That'll be a good pick.
So both of you are now in agreement that she should pick Mark Kelly?
Oh, no, I say it'd be a great pick. I think Shapiro is also a great pick. Remember, you need to win the blue wall. If she doesn't win the blue wall, this election is over.
Picking Shapiro will not help in Michigan, as you're talking about. That's one thing. Second thing is, I don't believe he can get through this unscathed with any kind of question. He's going to have to testify before Congress at some point because of the state troopers. They did a great job. The state troopers may have done a great job. Might have been the locals, might have been Secret Service. Somewhere in there, he cannot be caught. It's almost like Chris Christie and Bridgegate, but this governor didn't create the situation. His state troopers are going to be investigated for this shooting.
Well, it'd be great if Vice President Harris can pick up Mark Kelly and win Arizona. This becomes a lot more
doable. What about Roy Cooper? What about Mark Bashir?
There's no way he's going to win. It'll be a waste. It'll be a waste of a pick. And the reason it would be a waste of a pick
what's a waste of a pick?
I know why Bashir and I know why Cooper. You have white guys from the South that have won in red states. Great idea. Fine. But the idea that you're going to win Kentucky or North Carolina, you have to make a play for Arizona. That's a more doable bet than it is for her to win Kentucky.
It's not just Arizona.
Mark Kelly only won by a small margin last time.
Yeah, but winning in Arizona by a small margin is a huge deal for a Democrat.
One of the things to think about here too. Remember when you had the caucus, Benson. The question was,
you just aged yourself over.
No, but the important thing was, the question was, should it be the other way around? Benson at top. Mark Kelly is actually probably a better candidate, but hasn't been out there yet running for president.
And his wife was almost assassinated. We have to remember, this is a great story that Mark Kelly brings to the table. And Vice President Harris needs to make sure that she gets Arizona. When President Biden was still running, Arizona was up. New Mexico was now polling badly for the Democrats. Nevada's polling badly for the Democrats. So that entire region can really bode well for Vice President Harris.
Are you really saying also that she appeals to a different voter base than Joe Biden? I mean, she appeals to younger voters, to minority voters.
Yep. And women voters.
And women voters.
She takes all the Biden base and gets to add to it. The question is, what happens to the couple 100,000 votes you're talking about up in Wisconsin, the Pennsylvania, that whole Midwestern area at this point, Arizona for one? What is going to happen for tens of thousands of votes in those states? Well, and I don't think she can get through it because of the short time she has in the campaign at this point. She's got a great bump. She did great raising money. All that stuff is terrific.
Obi.
But I just don't see it right now in today's...
People are paying attention now and through Labor Day. People are going to really focus on this candidacy. And she could tell her story. She's walking in with a couple $100 million. She has a lot of energy. And I think that considering that we need the Vice President Harris, these 6 states to make this happen, you're looking at cities like Atlanta, cities like Detroit, which are going to be very important in this election. She's exciting people all over the country.
There was an Emerson poll that came out in the swing states. She narrowed it compared to Biden, but she was not beating Trump in those states.
But she can, and there's time.
It's a honeymoon period. I just don't see it happening.
All right, we're going to have to leave it right there for now, but we'll be right back. So we're back with another bonus conversation, and I have a question for both of you. Reuters has a poll that says that right now, Kamala Harris is 2 points ahead of Donald Trump, even though he had his big convention and came out with a bump from the convention. So here's my question. Is this a honeymoon, or is this something that she can sustain?
One, I think it's a honeymoon. 2 points still means she loses. Because of the national polls, you have to have about 4 to 5 points, they say, nationally for a Democrat to win. She could win the popular vote, and that's why I'm saying I think either way she will be the next president, because she could win the popular vote in November, and then Joe Biden can say, here you go for the next month, 6 weeks at this point. and then he gets a point because he will
see
take
what he
So
does.
he will make an
basically-
You see
argument
what
about
Obi
the
just did?
popular vote, or what will potentially happen is based upon how the campaign is going, and he wants to pardon his son. He's got to do certain things with the family. If that happens, he then can take the bullet for that and let her take off the last couple months.
So are you saying that he resigns and lets her finish?
I think at some point, I'm not saying
2 months of his term.
And the power of the White House is so strong. The Oval Office, Air Force One, hurricanes. Look at what President
but
Obama
that's
did with
after
Christie.
the election. Who wins the election?
No, but during the election, if she has that ability, so the Republicans calling for the president to resign right now are doing it wrong. The president, at his own behest and timing, has the ability to pull that out if he wants. He wants his legacy to be her as the next president, the first black woman as president.
So in other words, what you're
Biden's
saying, he has to resign before the election so that she's already the president as she's running.
And it benefits. Imagine her flying into hurricane-ravaged Florida, God forbid, Jersey, East Coast, anywhere. Any fires, any major
Okay, so if he
thing.
doesn't, do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think President Biden did enough. I think him stepping down, he didn't have to. He had the delegates wrapped up. I think he did his part. And yesterday's speech is exactly what he wanted to do, cement his legacy. He's going to take this all the way through the end of his term. He's not going to give up his
So,
position.
JC, can she win?
She can win. And let me tell you how I think she can win. If she picks the right vice president, vice presidents matter now. And quite interestingly, I think, I've been sitting here thinking about the J.D. Vance pick, which I predicted. And I'm thinking,
yes,
boy, what a light resume. What a light pick. It wasn't a good pick. J.D. Vance
but he's
adds.
from Ohio.
I know, but J.D. Vance adds. He barely won. J.D. Vance adds nothing to the Trump ticket. He doesn't add any geographic reach. He doesn't.
But Trump
He doesn't
doesn't
add
care
any
about that.
ideological reach.
Have you seen the movie?
No.
Have you seen his movie or read the book?
No, but
no, I'm saying it's because there are women I've been speaking to in the past week that are shocked at the book. They read the book, they saw the movie,
And this guy.
and then they go, "Wait, is this the same guy?"
Yeah.
The disconnect. It was just they were so surprised at the movie compared to the candidate.
So look, wait. I want to know. We're going to take a bet. Who is going to be the next president of the United States after Biden? I mean, not forgetting whether Biden resigns or not. Who's going to be sworn in on January 20th?
Who's going to win the election?
No,
is what
who's
you're
going to be
asking.
sworn in on January 20th?
Donald Trump right now.
I say Vice President Harris. You heard it here first. And we're going to bet a box of cigars, not just a few. I think she has a great shot. And the reason I think she has a great shot is, look, we're looking at battleground states. And if she excites the cities of Atlanta, if she excites Detroit, if she excites Philadelphia, this gets very interesting. And remember, there's so many things on the ballot. Abortion is on the ballot. Suburban women know this. They're going to come in large numbers. Their voting propensity for suburban women is higher than ever before. They're going to support Vice President Harris. That's why this VP pick matters, because she's going to add to the ticket as opposed to what former President Trump did. She's going to add region. She's going to add gravitas and a lot of dynamics.
After running a special election over a decade ago here in Brooklyn and Queens, I can tell you, anyone who runs that race is never going to get anything done they have to get done. They're going to miss a lot of things. You get 5 pounds of stuff into a 2-pound bag, or 10-pound stuff in a 5-pound bag. You have to make decisions, and it's going to be second-guessed all the time. This vice president has to make sure she listens to them. They have a plan, they can execute it, and she has such a short time. All these issues you're bringing up are going to go by the wayside when she starts getting hit and taken off message. That's going to be the question. Everyone knows about Donald Trump. There's nothing new. The world does not know about Vice President Harris yet. And I think in the next 100 days, it's going to be very tough for her to pull that off.
Marcia, nothing new. You're right, Obi, but people will be reminded. And I think the more independent voters like myself, begin to see the January 6th commercials, begin to see what happened during the presidency of Donald Trump, will be reminded we don't want that again. And I think that's going to be the spirit of her campaign, reminding folks of how it was.
But the whiplash that occurs when there's one issue here, one issue here, one issue here, will she be able to stay on message? When she attacked President Biden on the debate stage and then was asked about that same busing issue, she didn't have a response. She was ready for the attack, not the policy. And every policy that President Biden decides to go with going forward, every decision he makes, whether it be on Israel, whether it be on Ukraine, anything he decides is going to be hers to carry. And if she goes against him, then will she annoy the Democratic base and turn them off and lessen their enthusiasm? She took, on a scale of 10, let's say President Biden had 5, she's up to 7 or 8 now, maybe even 9 at enthusiasm.
I have one last question. So right now, Donald Trump has been trying to define her as she's trying to get her campaign up to speed. And he's been defining her as a the most radical person, like equating her with being beyond AOC. And there's no response to it yet because she's still trying to get her campaign up. Does that stick, or does that go by the wayside as she gets up to speed and gets her campaign in gear?
The people watching this show know what's going on. The rest of America right now is so tired after everything that's happened the past 3 weeks. At this point, they don't hear what President Trump's saying about those tests that he's talking about. When the money gets spent up in the swing states, that's when it's going to matter. And the polls today that came out from Emerson this week, it'll be interesting where they go in a week or two.
It'll be very difficult to try to paint a former prosecutor, attorney general, as being weak on crime and as being a crazy leftist. It's not going to work. It's not going to stick. What I fear and what I'm really concerned about, Obi and Marcia, is what I see Republicans doing against the vice president now, calling her the DEI pick, the DEI vice president. DEI to Republicans has become a slur. And I see it being launched. And you know what's interesting? That independent voters and people in the know are actually disgusted by the use of DI as a slur against a person who has been an elected DA, elected attorney general, elected U.S. senator, and elected vice president. And you're going to launch a DA attack when, quite frankly, you've decided to pick a guy with 18 months in the U.S. Senate who happened to be poor from Appalachia. I mean, when you talk about the DEI pick, that's DEI run amok, that J.D. Vance pick.
One of the things President Trump did so well in 2016 is he answered any charge himself. If they spent $1 million saying that he was pro-choice in New Hampshire, he would utter a sentence saying, I am pro-life, and that $1 million evaporated. Right now, what the vice president has to be ready for is these attacks and be able to push back on them while she's doing a great job raising money, while she's doing a great job putting her organization together. But until all that is a well-oiled machine, they're right now not in lockstep yet, and they have very few days to do that right.
Okay, so we're going to have to end the show, but you have bets we've put down. You say Trump, you say Harris.
But I also say October surprise.
Wait.
October surprise.
He says Mark Kelly.
Mark Kelly.
And you say?
Mark Kelly. And by the end of the campaign,
agreement.
by the end of the campaign, people will say it should be Kelly Harris.
And on that note, we're going to bet, and we're going to let people know when after the election who won. Also, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me at home as well.
Thank you so much.